Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Briancrombie Radio Hour on Sagadide 60. What's going on in Ukraine is a constant issue, I think, in lots of our minds, and something that I'm very interested in with real people that are living in Ukraine and what their experience of the war, of the invasion is. And so I'm joined tonight by Khrystyna Khariv, who is a linguist. She's a technical individual. She's co-operating a law firm in Kiev, and she's been posting fairly regularly about what's going on in the war. And so I thought it'd be interesting to check in with her about why she's been doing what she's been doing, how she's been able to cope with the war, operate her business, and the impact on her family. Khrystyna, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm okay. Like I said, all things considered.
So tell me, you felt like you were one of the more fortunate Ukrainians. Why did you feel like you were one of the more fortunate Ukrainians?
Well, we have family in Western Ukraine, in the western part of Ukraine. Yes, so before the war even started, we had somewhere to go. We had a safe place to go, and we had our own business, so we could work remotely. That's something we've been doing for years. And yeah, our home is still standing. Our neighbors, our family are not under occupation. We do have connection with a lot of people, and not everyone enjoys such privileges in Ukraine currently. Yeah, and like I said, that when the war just started, I thought, like, since I can share this information and I can be the voice for the less fortunate people, then I felt that that was something like my duty. Yeah, something I wanted to do. And yeah, another reason is that in 2014, when we already had Russia attack us, the world basically didn't believe us. Yeah, because of the Russian propaganda machine and us not taking it seriously, underestimating it. And I just thought that God, this can't happen again. They will make everyone think that that's another internal conflict, and I have to do something about it. I have to spread the information. There was very little information in the beginning in English available, and so I just started translating the latest news, the situation, and posting whatever I could do, and trying to reach foreigners through LinkedIn, because I felt like the right platform to do that.
And has it been successful? Do you think you've reached out to people?
Well, yes. So first, during the very first hours, I received an overwhelming amount of connection requests and messages, in mails, people offering me help, people asking if maybe I would like to come stay with them, total strangers offering me to move in, to use their property they're not using any, like somewhere, wherever in the world. Like I had invitations to go to Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Mexico, US, Canada, whatever, you name it. I had someone reaching out to me and saying, this is terrible what's going on, and we are with you, we want to support, we want to help. And so the response was overwhelmingly positive. I did get some comments like, this is not the right place to post such things, this is a professional platform, but there's no business for me anymore if there's no country. If my family is gone, my country is gone, there's no more business for me. That was the only business for me at that time.
And tell me, you run a law firm, is that correct? How did the law firm continue? What kind of legal work are you able to do?
Well, yes, I co-run a law firm, so I'm not in charge of legal and financial issues. Let's put it that way. I do handle the legal issues sometimes. Like I just know about that part of the business. Yeah, but I do communication, technical parts of the job. And well, yeah, basically our operations were put on hold because our lawyers, some of them had to move to other places, to safer places. My husband was still in Kiev while I was in the safer part of Ukraine. And yeah, it was basically put on hold. Then we started helping out our clients, which are mostly foreign businesses. So, like, pretty much, I don't know, 99% of our clients are foreign companies in Ukraine. and they needed help relocating their businesses, getting their employees out, and so on. So that was, and yeah, force majeure, another issue at that time. But we were operating, but maybe like, let's say 15-20% of our capacity in the beginning. Yeah, we kept the team. We tried to preserve anyone. One of our lawyers moved to Germany, and we encouraged that because she has 3 kids. And her husband, of course, stayed behind. So that's just how it was. And we just did what we could do at that situation.
Now, you personally moved to Western Ukraine with your son, is that correct?
Yes, we moved to just to be on the safe side. We moved on February 15th to my parents initially because
where's that?
Lviv region.
Okay.
That's a little town in Lviv region, because we had rumors that there's going to be an attack on the 16th. And well, we had holidays anyway. When we thought we can work from any part of Ukraine, I can work remotely, and so we just decided to move just in case. Yeah, my husband brought us to safety essentially, and then returned back to Kiev because he just couldn't do it any other way. And so he was there on the 23rd, 24th, and yeah.
And how long did you stay in Western Ukraine? How long did he stay in Kiev? How long did you guys stay apart?
So on the 25th, he realized that there was nothing he could do, nothing really he could do for the defense of his city. And instead, he could keep working, keep helping our team. Yes, remain functional and so on. And also there was a family, our neighbors, that he met in the parking lot, which was turned into a bomb shelter at that time. So people were sleeping there, spending nights there, and they needed to be brought to safety. And so I just urged him to come, and he brought them to Ivano-Frankivsk, and on the 25th they set off. On the way, they ran out of gas. They had to stop somewhere on the way to look for a place. Luckily, a very kind older lady let them in, and so they were able to spend the night and set off again next morning. So it took them essentially 2 days to get from Kyiv to Ivano-Frankivsk, and then from there he left the family there and he came to us, and got enlisted. Got registered with the military in the region where we were staying, and essentially we moved to his mother in Ivano-Frankivsk and stayed there till the end of August.
And now you're back in Kiev?
Now we're back in Kiev, yeah.
And tell me, what's the state of Kiev? Is it can you see devastation? Can you see the ruins of what the Russians left a couple months ago, or has the city been rebuilt?
So in Kiev, you cannot see the damage. I don't know if it's something we could talk about, because I think it's an important issue. That's something I was struck with, this abnormal normalcy of life in Kiev. So normalcy. Yeah, because on the way to Kiev, when you get to Kyiv region, well, first of all, on the way, on the road, all the traffic signs that have indications of place names, they have been removed and they are still not there. So, like, we know the road, we have the navigation in place, so we don't have a problem with that. We didn't even notice that first. But all the road signs have been removed, so Russians didn't know where they were, essentially. And so that's the first thing that tells you that something is off. And then when you get to Kyiv region, especially villages like Makariv, Kalinivka, that were hit the most probably among those close to this highway leading to Kyiv. There you can see the damage. You can see a destroyed shopping mall, several warehouses, and a large amount of private houses, regular residential private houses that have been burned down, bombed out. And so even though we were since we were coming back in August, and there was a lot of greenery, and so most of the damage was concealed by the greenery, but still you can see. a lot of lives have been taken there because those were just regular houses, no military objects. There was an air base in Kalinivka, from what I remember, and it was hit, but also there were just many regular houses that got burned down. And yeah, overhead road crossings and all those stuff, they're just demolished. They're all destroyed. And the road has been patched up, so you can easily get to Kiev, no problem. And we had to take a detour to avoid the traffic. And we actually drove through Irpin, so close to Bucha and Irpin. And we saw the destroyed bridge in Stoyanka with that van, that's like tipped over van still there. And from what I've heard, they're not going to move it. There will be some kind of like a monument. And so you can see perfectly new residential buildings, just built maybe like last year, or really new. And you can see this bridge, which is completely destroyed. And as you've probably seen on the photographs, with the van tipped over and people standing there under the bridge. Yeah, but then you come to Kyiv, and that was one of the last summer evenings, very warm summer evening, great weather. And there are crowds of people walking. Yeah, well, because we live on the quay of the Dnipro River. And in the park, on the streets, on the quay, there are lots of people just walking. And so first I was basically shocked to see all of this and thinking, how can it be? If you didn't know there was a war, you wouldn't think there was one. Yeah, but then I just asked myself, what did I expect? What did I expect? The volunteers running on the streets? I don't know, people chanting something or asking for donations. I don't know. I know that this all is there. It just moved online mostly. Yeah, we have those chats, we have forums where people are asking for help constantly, where displaced people are looking for apartments to live and just basic help with some stuff for babies, food, supplies, and so on. We help people making masking nets and all of that things. And we, like, basically every second person is probably some kind of a volunteer, if not everyone. So you cannot really tell that. You cannot tell that, but yeah, the war is just hidden, I guess. It's part of our lives, everyday lives. And if you just looked at me walking with my son and, I don't know, feeding squirrels as we do on the weekends, you probably wouldn't think that I'm engaged much in this war. Yeah, I'm not doing much. I'm just living my regular life, as it would seem. But if you come closer, if you follow us, if you listen to what we're discussing, how like Ukrainians have retaken this and this village, and my son tells me that, the latest news, the latest updates, and some plans, what we can do, how we can help out, then you understand that, yeah, this is just something that's not seen like that on the surface. So this is
abnormal normalcy. It's amazing what how resilient humans are. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Khrystyna in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Fascinating. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I'm having really quite an interesting conversation, a frank, scary, frankly, conversation with Khrystyna Khariv, who is joined us from Kiev, Ukraine. She's talked about abnormal normalcy, about how life is sort of back to normal, even in the middle of an invasion and a war, and how she still goes out on the weekends and walks with her son and chases squirrels. But then her son, who you told me I think is what, 8 or 9 years old?
9.5. Yeah.
And he's telling you about what's happening in the war. He's following it, and you're saying he's telling you about the successes of the counteroffensives and things like this. So obviously he's well aware of what's going on.
Well, yeah, he's actually the first thing he does in the morning, he gets up early. He's an early riser, and he checks the news. Even though I told him it's a bad thing to do for his health, but right now that's just the reality we live in. So he just goes through the news and picks the most important ones and sends them to a chat that we have with our grandmas. And he sends the most important messages there, shares that information with all of them. Or sometimes these are happy numbers for us, for Ukraine, or advances. Sometimes not so much. But yeah, in the beginning, he used to count the number of missiles that Russia hit us with, thinking that like with every next missile that they use on us, there's less left to hit us. Well, he's into numbers, so yeah, that's another factor to keep in mind here. But yeah, that's just how it is these days.
Must be really hard for kids to understand what's going on and to deal with it. The anxiety, the fear. How do you deal with that? Just by talking to him about it?
Yeah, well, we are good at managing emotions, and I think kids, they probably do have some built-in mechanisms to help them cope with such things. And maybe, well, he is a very sensitive, he's a very vulnerable guy, and so news about someone dying for him, that's really something hard for him to deal with. But since the beginning of the war, he's been sharing with us the numbers of soldiers, Russian soldiers killed, for example. And so I guess he just, I don't know, it dialed down to some point. He got used to those numbers, and maybe he that doesn't affect him so much anymore. He kind of got used to that, yeah, numbed down maybe a bit.
That's so strange that you get used to war. Now, I asked you for what the things are you wanted to talk about, and one of the ones you said was constant nuclear threat. Tell me how you deal with constant nuclear threat.
Well, here, I get asked a lot, aren't you afraid? Why didn't you leave? Don't you know that you could get hit with a nuclear bomb and so on? And well, the first thing that I think of is the Serenity Prayer, yeah, that probably many of you know what it's called. That there's nothing I can do about a nuclear bomb, so I might as well just accept that and understand that. Well, for the time being, I also understand that there are no reasons for Putin to use it on us. So Ukrainians are, again, that's something that we are used to. And we are standing up to bullies. We don't like being scared, being threatened. We don't accept that. We don't tolerate threats like that. And I guess this become a national philosophy to some point. And so we stay level-headed. We see that, for example, right now, Putin announced mobilization. That means that he has some hopes of achieving some goals of his in the conventional way, correct? That makes sense. So apparently he thinks he still has a chance. That gives us at least several months of nuke-free future. And so
future. Oh my God, it's incredible.
That's just how we take it. Yeah, we just take it as we go. So I think in the beginning I was more alarmed probably in the beginning. Yeah, and my son was very worried about that. But yeah, eventually we got again something we got used to. And I don't know, for most Ukrainians, we really value our freedom, and so for us it's not acceptable to back down, even under a threat of nuclear weapons being used against us. Yeah, and
one of the other things.
Yeah, there are many aspects to this. Military experts say that it also doesn't give him advantages, but he is not quite in touch with reality, so he might think differently. This is something we don't know, what he thinks about his advantages of using nuclear weapons. Yeah, but we'll just take it as we go, I guess, and deal with it.
So if he used a tactical nuclear weapon and destroyed some portion of Ukraine, would you support NATO using nuclear weapons against some portion of Russia?
No, I don't think nuclear weapons. I think that they should respond conventionally. I think NATO, of course, does have enough conventional power to do so. I wouldn't want for the further escalation. So after nuclear, I don't know how much further you can go, but I wouldn't want this to escalate further if possible. So I think it should be contained. Yeah, we have an air raid alert in Kiev, but I don't think you can hear it. Yeah, right now at the moment.
You have an air raid alert right now?
Yeah, but the windows are closed, so you probably won't hear it. The mic won't pick it up. Yeah.
And so what do you typically do when there's an air raid alert? Do you go to the basement? Do you go to the garage?
I live on one of the top floors of the building, and it will take me like 3 minutes to get downstairs, maybe longer if there is an elevator. Probably like 5 minutes to just wait for the elevator and then go down. So no, we don't go downstairs. We just stay at home. Yeah, and just hope, yeah, that the missile will go somewhere else, and mostly it is the case for Kiev, but it's still alarming because it will hit someone somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so we just hope that, yeah, the air defense will deal with it, and not many people will suffer from the airstrike.
One of the things that you said you wanted to talk about was why Ukrainian people resisted. Tell me why you think there was successful resistance.
Why successful? Well, why resisted? Because we knew that there's no way that Russia would just come, I don't know, and turn us peacefully into Russians or something. They would just kill us. They would exterminate Ukrainians. That was their goal. So for us, essentially, not resisting was just giving up and being ready to being exterminated. So yeah, and that's not something we could put up with. Yeah,
seriously, that's what you think? So Putin didn't want Russian, he didn't want Ukrainians to become Russian. He wanted to exterminate Ukrainians and just take over the land.
He wanted to do what he always did. He wanted to capture the land, get rid of the people there that were not compliant. Yes, move in Russians that were compliant and assimilate the land. And that's it. And we would just be sent to new filtration camps. My family is Ukrainian speakers. Yeah, we are Ukrainian speakers. Of course, I'm fluent in Russian. That I can write text. I used to write copy in Russian, so no problem for me to speak Russian. But we are Ukrainian speakers, and people like us would definitely be sent to a filtration camp, and all the others. And there are many Russian speakers who are not less patriotic than I am, and who do not want any Putin or Russia here. And yeah, they're Ukrainians just like me, regardless of the language they speak.
I've visited Kiev and Ukraine and Poltava and some city with about 26 letters in its name, Dnipropetrovsk or something or other that I can't pronounce. I apologize.
Perhaps Pervomais. It sounded Pervomais.
I did find it interesting that there really seemed to be sort of two very different groups: the Russian speakers, the Ukrainian speakers, those that went to Ukrainian Catholic churches versus those that went to Russian Orthodox churches. But you're saying even though they were separated by religion and by language, they were all Ukrainian.
Yes, well, I don't know if you remember, but what shocked me the most in the beginning was when Kherson was just being occupied, and those rallies with thousands of people, Russian speaking. Kherson is, I don't know, 90-something% Russian speaking probably. And they were on the streets, and they were told that, I just watched the video yesterday. A man is walking and said, look at all this crowd, all these thousands of people. Yesterday we were told that if someone comes to the square, if people gather, everyone will be killed by Russians, by the occupiers. They came nonetheless, and they were yelling, curses at Putin, and they were saying, Russians, go away, Kherson is Ukraine. And so that was just extremely striking. And I remember mentioning to other people that this is patriotism. That's what it looks like. And yes, they might be speaking Russian language at home. Most of them do know Ukrainian. Yes, it just happened that they were born in a Russian-speaking family. I was born in a Ukrainian-speaking one. That's the only difference. I didn't choose where to be born, just like they didn't. Yeah, but they were Ukrainians, and it just showed it all. So we had these sham referenda, but the real referendum in Kherson happened in the beginning of the occupation, when people came to the streets, being threatened by guns, by tanks. And they just showed that they didn't care. They wanted to be Ukraine, and they wanted Russia to leave them alone.
How has business been able to survive?
Well, most businesses are relocated to the less affected areas. So yeah, like Lviv region, Ternopil region, Ivano-Frankivsk, Chernivtsi, Zakarpattia, and the Transcarpathian. And yeah, so basically everyone who managed to, they relocated there. And so we can work remotely. The IT industry has no problems with that at all. And now business is largely back in Kiev. The city is alive. There are many cars on the streets, and so this is how it is. We have been through many crises, Ukrainians. Yeah, we had a crisis like everyone else in 2008, 2009. Then we had a war, and the start of the war in 2014. Then we were hit with COVID just like anyone else. Yeah, and so I guess we have built the muscles of resilience by this time. And we just know that the crisis, they will pass. And we are good at coping with them, I think. And yeah, I guess we're optimists also. And I think
there's no question. So your president has become sort of unbelievably optimistic in regards to everybody.
Yeah, well,
and he's been an inspiration to the world, I would think.
Yes, and Jack, he has shown us, and he's basically an example of a true leadership. Yeah,
what do you think of his leadership so far?
I think that it was one of the key factors. I think that had he left back in February, it might all have gone very differently. And we might have, Ukraine might have just collapsed. Yeah, well, like what we see with the Russian forces now. They don't have a proper command. There's chaos, and it leads to them just surrendering or running away, retreating massively. Yeah, en masse. And I think that without such a strong leadership, without him being the example, that we would stay and fight and do whatever it takes, it would all go very differently.
What a unbelievable experience that you've had to live through. Tell me, what do you think is going to happen?
What I think is going to happen? Well, I think we're going to win this war. That's what I think. Well, I don't think I'm pretty much sure we're going to win this war. Of course, it's a question of time. Yeah, but we are going to retake territories, because those are not territories, those are people there, and that's something that pains me a lot. It's heartbreaking to know how people under occupation live, and so we want them back. We want them back not because it's a territory, not because we want Ukraine to be larger or something, but because there are our people there, and we don't leave our behind. And yeah, I think that we will recover. I think that we will have a massive reconstruction. I think that many people will want to participate in the reconstruction, because this is something meaningful, purposeful. It can be something that, well, I know a lot of foreigners who have found a new purpose in life, basically, in coming to Ukraine and helping people. Because, for example, they are older, maybe their partners have passed away, and they were looking for something new in life. And now they found Ukraine. They found that they can make a difference. They have skills, they have knowledge, they have connections, and they come here and help rebuild. There are many people in need of help. There are cities in need of reconstruction. There are houses destroyed. People expecting this winter with anxiety and fear, because it's going to be cold and they have no place to live. Yeah, so we will need a lot of help. And we are helping ourselves as well. So I am optimistic. I think we will manage with the help of the world, of the global community.
With the kind of attitude that you and your president have, I think you might be right. You said that one of the things that you wanted to mention and talk about was there a way to avoid the war? Do you think there was?
Well, no, that's another common question. I think it was not avoidable. I think Putin couldn't afford having a success story, next to Russia. He couldn't afford Ukraine becoming stronger economically, becoming part of the EU, and so on, developing, because then Russian people would have questions. They might not care about Ukrainians or anyone else, but I think they do care about themselves. Yeah, and they would see that perhaps there's a different way. Perhaps they didn't get the best. they didn't get dealt the best card with their president. And yeah, that could change something.
So just because Ukraine had become westernized, become democratic, become capitalist, become successful economic growth, you think Putin had to attack just so that he didn't have the example on his doorstep of a successful country following a different path?
I think that's one of the factors. Yeah, he has ambitions. For me, it seems obvious that he has ambitions of restoring to some extent the Soviet Union. So such personal ambitions. But I think that was an important part of that. He couldn't stay in power with Ukraine becoming a democratic, well-developed country. We have relatives in Russia, right? And they would know. They would start asking questions. They came to visit, and I have people in Kharkiv who told stories that, like, their relatives would come for a visit, and they would say, "It's a different world here in Ukraine. How do you guys live like that? Why can't we live like this?" And imagine what would have happened after a few years. And on the other hand, we could not afford having such a neighbor. This just couldn't go any longer. The war has been ongoing since 2014 and basically crippling our economy. We as a business, we are dealing with foreign investors all the time. And they were, well, of course, yeah, as they say, with the highest risk comes higher reward. But still, it's hard to invest in a country. They are unwilling to invest in a country that is under constant risk of being hit, being attacked by the neighbor.
Yeah, no question.
And so I remember still today, when we were headed to the region to safety, and we called some people that we know in the military. Yeah, and they've been fighting. They were participating in the war since 2014, and we said, What is your opinion of all of this? What's your take on this? How do you feel about it? And they said, we are ready. We are tired of this slow-going war, exhausting war for the economy, for our families. We are tired of 8 years of this fighting that no one seems to notice. And we are prepared for whatever comes. And they actually welcomed it. They said, it's better if it starts, if a new phase starts, but maybe we'll be able to get rid of the neighbor that keeps threatening us. Maybe we'll just be able to put an end to this story instead of going another 10 years like that, or maybe 20, or I don't know how long. So
go ahead.
No, that's people in the military, who had to deal with this, and that's what they had to say.
Khrystyna, I've been really impressed with your regular posting on LinkedIn. If people want to follow you, do you welcome that?
Yes, so I welcome that. I can't manage to post as much anymore.
I've lost your voice. Are you still there?
Yes.
We're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just a minute with Khrystyna from Kiev. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're talking about Ukraine tonight with Khrystyna Khariv, who is an administrator and an operator, co-operator of a law firm in Kiev, Ukraine. She went to Western Ukraine just before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, stayed there until August with her son, returned with her husband to Kiev in August, and was surprised with the normalcy, the abnormal normal that she saw in Kiev. A air raid siren went off just a couple minutes ago, and she just sat there and said, I hope it doesn't come through the windows to the microphone. And so she was more worried about the impact on our sound than she was on her own life, which frankly is shocking. And it's amazing that you and your people have become so resilient and lived through this. Tell me, you've posted also about some of the atrocities, some of the destruction, some of the rape, some of the murder. How do you deal with that?
Well, it's different in every case. So I remember there were some days, for example, when Kramatorsk was hit, no, Kremenchuk was hit. Was it? Yeah, Kremenchuk. But before the Kramatorsk railway station was hit, and 50 people were killed. Yeah, so they specifically targeted people waiting for an evacuation train. And we had a family of people, three female, a mom with a girl and with her mom, so 3 generations, who came from Kramatorsk. And yeah, because they ran away, they had to flee. And so that hit us all hard. Yeah, and so after some of these news, you just had to basically stay silent and maybe not post anything, not talk, not read anything. It was different with each case. Yeah, sometimes you just try to, I don't know, stay a bit away, keep your distance from this. Remember that you have to stay productive, right? If I think too much about the atrocities, I won't be able to help. I won't be staying functional, and my people need me. My business needs me. Our employees need me, and so I just have to stay responsible and maintain functionality. And that's just how it is. And so you can't let those stories get too close to you from time to time. Yeah, you have to just keep your distance a bit.
You've had some concerning news recently. Do you want to share that with us?
And you mean that my husband is getting drafted?
Yes.
Well, since you mentioned it, I think I have no other choice. Well, yes, it's more concerning in terms of business, because he doesn't have any military experience, so I know he won't be sent to the front line or anything like that, at least in the next 2 months. And yeah, as I joke, Putin has 2 months, 2 months to step down, because I really have to. I hate dealing with paperwork and billing, invoicing, and all of that stuff. So I can handle more than 2 months probably. So the largest concern that we have about the situation is just the business, because we have to keep the business running, and I'm sure he won't be able to do his regular administrative tasks. So I will have to run it by myself. And we have, like I've said, we have people that depend on us for their salaries. They have families to support, and so. But like I always say, you know, it always works out in the end. So I think we'll figure it out. I think we could even possibly find some ways of managing things more efficiently. Maybe remove some bottlenecks. Who knows? Maybe after all of this, our business will become just like a smooth running machine.
Yeah.
So.
Do you know other people whose husbands have been drafted, or other males that have been drafted?
Well, I'm in touch with wives of servicemen on a regular basis. Yeah, so yeah, I guess, yeah. So they are fighting. Some of them are at the front lines, and I'm in touch with them because we also help them with supplies. And I've been trying to raise funds also.
I'm losing your voice again. I'm just wondering, when people are in the front lines, when they get drafted, are you able to stay in contact with them? Do they still keep their phones, and are you able to communicate with them?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No, I've lost you. I apologize.
Let's try again. How about now?
It's a little bit better.
Okay, so sometimes they cannot stay in touch at all, and but from time to time they return to their like bases, to the command points, and that's when they can have contact with their relatives. Yeah, so sometimes their wives can't reach them for several days, but they mostly know about it, and they say like, "Don't worry about me. You won't be able to reach me for the next few days, and then I'll just text you or call you," and that's just how it works.
Well, our prayers are with you and your husband and your son as he embarks on his military training, and obviously hope that you all stay safe. And I think the world is watching. It really is interesting. Lots of people thought that too many of us in the West would become overly focused on our own lives and inflation and our own issues, but people are still very concerned for obvious reasons in what's going on, and this really does seem like a fight between democracy and something that, if not fascism, is something that is damn close to it. Do you think the West has done enough?
I think that without the help, we would not be able to survive. Yeah, so without the help we received, we just couldn't handle it, and probably Ukraine would have fallen by now. And so I am immensely grateful to the West for all the help that we received, to all the countries that took in our people, that took care of them, that provided housing, that provided schooling, and so on. And yeah, maybe in the beginning, because not many countries, if any at all, believed that we would survive. Maybe in the beginning, the response was a bit slow. I mean, military help. Obviously, no one closed the borders for our people, and I didn't expect that, because Europe has had enough refugees in the recent periods, and I know it hasn't been easy for them, but they took all of us in, took our people in. And so, yeah, I'm immensely grateful for all the help that we received, and we are getting still. And as you said, maybe this war will cause some people to rethink their lives, their values in some way. Maybe to see that some things that they take for granted in other parts of the world, people have to sacrifice their life for those values. And yeah, maybe the material things don't matter all that much.
Khrystyna Khariv, thank you so much for joining us and telling us a little bit about your life, your business, your family, your experience, how you've been resilient, how you survived in the middle of a war. It's just astounding. Our prayers are with you. Our thoughts are with you. Be safe, and please wish your husband well as he embarks on the next stage of his life. Really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and apologize for the sound. Yeah.
Sorry, it's amazing that even in the middle of a war with an air raid siren going on, you can still talk via the internet across the globe. Thanks so much. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be back with some concluding comments in just a minute.